I see gold going a lot higher this year. Silver the same. So silver's all-time high is roughly $50 an ounce. It's still around 34. So it still needs a 50% gain to get back to those all-time highs, but it's coming.
You're listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, where you get valuable information you just can't find anywhere else. To thrive in today's trying times, you need the Financial Survival Network, now more than ever. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and get your free newsletter and gift. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.
And welcome. You are listening to and watching the Financial Survival Network. I'm your host, Kerry Lutz. Well, Alan Hibbard is with us now, goldsilver.com. Alan, hey, it's been a few months, but a lot has happened during those few months, hasn't it?
Yeah. Thanks for having me back, Kerry. Appreciate it. There's a lot to discuss in gold and silver.
Right. So record high prices. Now it looks like maybe we're due for a little pullback. That wouldn't be surprising, would it?
No, I mean, there's always pullbacks in the market, but I mean, if you're the type of investor that I am, you zoom out and you look at the big picture and you don't worry about the day-to-day noise. So I see gold going a lot higher this year, silver the same. So silver's all-time high is roughly $50 an ounce. It's still around 34. So it still needs a 50% gain to get back to those all-time highs, but it's coming maybe in the next year or two.
Right. And hey, Eric Sprott thinks we're looking at $300 silver. I mean, I'd love to see it, but think that's possible?
Well, eventually, yeah. It depends how long you're willing to wait. So a lot of silver stackers have been waiting decades, right, for these prices. So if you're willing to wait longer, I mean, you could see those prices be realized. And something that just happened either earlier today or yesterday was Robinhood stopping trading of PSLV. So speaking of Sprott silver, Robinhood traders can't buy into that silver ETF anymore. And I haven't had a chance to look beyond the headlines, but it seems suspicious to me that something like that would happen at this point in the market when there's potentially a run on physical silver. So that does seem a little suspicious, but perhaps there's a benign explanation there. So I guess we'll see.
All right, somebody plugged it into ChatGPT, and basically, is it being manipulated, and how is it being done, and why? And I'm going to plug it in right now. And let's see if it changed its mind. But there is no public verified evidence proving illegal manipulation. That said, there are legitimate concerns about silver price manipulation in general. And since PSLV is a physical silver trust, any manipulation of the spot price of silver would naturally impact it. But there was a huge spike in the short position in PSLV. And, it was like somebody sent me a chart of it. It was huge. Let's just say, is there a huge spike in PSLV shorts? That's what I saw. The chart was like, it was like 500 times, Alan. No.
Oh, geez. Okay. Yeah, I didn't see that chart, but it wouldn't surprise me.
Parabolic, like you couldn't believe. So let's just ask it. And because it knows all, right? It's like the old Johnny Carson character, all-knowing, all-seeing prophet there.
It does make mistakes, though. Keep that in mind. Like if you ever ask it about a topic that you know really well, you will spot errors pretty easily.
That is true. Interest rate in PSLV. I saw a chart. Now, I don't know what it means, but it was like huge. Now it says there's a decline. I don't know what happened. I'm going to look up that email, but the point is something's going on with PSLV, and will a short squeeze result? I don't know.
Yeah, it sort of looks like it's playing out if you look at the other signs and symptoms in the market. And it's not just silver, by the way, it's also gold. So there really seems to be a run on both metals, both physical metals. And like going back to the question of, are these markets manipulated, or, is there illegal activity going on? If you just think about the fact that paper contracts exist, futures contracts, and there's more futures contracts than there are physical. We know that. That's public information. It's not controversial or conspiratorial. if there's more paper ounces than physical ounces, the market trades as if the supply were a lot bigger than it really is. And if you know basic economics, whenever the supply goes up, that's going to effectively bring the price down. So just by having extra paper ounces of gold and silver, the price is going to come down below what it otherwise would. So that might not be illegal, that might not be conspiratorial, but just that feature of the market alone causes the price to be a lot lower. Now, are there other illegal activities that go on from time to time? I'm sure there are. You know, just a few years ago, a couple of traders at JP Morgan went to jail for manipulating the gold market. But in terms of at any given time, who's doing illegal things or not, I have no idea. That doesn't really enter into my investment thesis. It's just that any time that there's a run on the physical metal, you're going to see the markets unwind and shoot up the way that we're seeing right now. And there doesn't have to be any malicious intent going on. That's just basic supply and demand.
Here, there's an article in Seeking Alpha 7 days ago. Is PSLV being shorted to stop a silver squeeze? You know, like I knew I didn't make this stuff up here, Alan. You know, I mean, it's really happening here.
Yeah, it is for sure. Well, I mean, everyone has their agenda, right? Some people want the price to go up. Others want the price to go down. We know that governments and central banks and all their counterparts, they have an interest in metals prices being lower because then people don't pay attention to them. They focus more on the dollar and the whole fiat system and playing that game. Whereas when the price of these metals is high, people pay attention to gold and silver and they start asking questions and they say, you know, is the gold in Fort Knox and why do we even care about gold? And, you know, is the dollar backed by gold? And are these things really money? And that's not good if you're trying to control people.
I'm glad you brought that up because I wrote an article on what would happen if the gold wasn't in Fort Knox. Like Elon Musk and Donald Trump, you know, they take Air Force One out there to Kentucky and they go in the place, these huge vaults where you saw like Goldfinger, all that. Yeah. And then there's nothing there. So my point being that they can't allow there to be nothing there because I think it would collapse the entire global financial system.
Exactly. You'd have all kinds of riots, civil war. I mean, it would be, you can't predict how people are going to react. That's too volatile of a risk. So you can't let it happen. So if you're going to do an audit, you have to know ahead of time that everything's there, everything checks all the boxes, and then you can have a controlled response. So I agree. I haven't read your article, but I agree with your thesis there.
Oh, we'll throw a link in the show notes to it. But it would be a disaster. Maybe they could figure something out, but the credibility of the government would be hugely diminished. It would affect the dollar, and it would certainly affect the treasuries out there. It would be a nightmare. So I talked about this with Craig Hemke, and we both agreed, regardless of what's happening there will be some semblance of gold there. As far as the human eye could see. In fact, they'll count it and they'll say, you know what, we were off by 10%. We have 9,000 tons, not 8,000. You know, something like that will happen. I guarantee it.
Yeah, we have more than we thought. Oh, where did this come from? Oh, well, I guess it's ours. Found your keepers. Error.
Right?
Yeah, like it could happen. I doubt it, but it could.
You know, like last year alone, PSLV was up 36.5%, you know? Mm-hmm. So wasn't a bad year for metals. But I think we're kind of due to take a breather, barring any unforeseen disaster.
Yeah.
It's around the corner.
It could be. I mean, there's always ups and downs. And thankfully, I've developed a strategy, you know, for my own personal investing where the little ups and downs don't matter. I mean, for most of that is noise, in my opinion. Whenever I buy something, I'm planning on holding it at least a decade, probably multiple decades. So, yeah, I just accumulate little by little. And if the price stays low, that just means I can accumulate more. And if it goes up, well, great. It temporarily feels good until the next pullback. And then I say, okay, well, nothing really changed in my portfolio. I still have the same number of ounces I had before. Yeah. So,
yeah, just the nominal dollar value has gone up. So I guess the deal is, do you buy now? Do you wait for the pullback? What do you do?
Well, I buy a little bit every month, no matter what. So that to me is the simplest way of doing it. For people who want to get a bit more exotic, I mean, you run the risk of, if there isn't a pullback, then, you're going to pay more for whatever you buy. So I tried to do that in the past, and I realized I wasn't very good at anticipating these day-to-day, week-to-week movements. It's just too hard for me. Maybe other people can do it, but I just buy a little bit every month, and then I take my own skill out of it.
Yeah, well, that's it. That's it. So what about cryptos? What's your feeling here? Like, talked to one analyst who said that crypto is so multi-leveraged, by different parties, and then they're putting together ETFs because people can't afford to buy crypto, so they're buying ETFs, and it's just going to be this cascading chain of failures if somehow the market loses faith.
Yeah, that definitely could happen. So when we talk about the crypto market, the first thing I like to do is clarify that Bitcoin, in my opinion, is different than all the other cryptos. So these are two separate things. So I look at Bitcoin like digital gold, and gold is, different than the stock market. So I would separate gold from all the stocks of the world the same way I'd separate Bitcoin from all the other cryptocurrencies of the world. So all those cryptos are centralized, just like stocks, right? They have a management team, and they're trying to create partnerships and create useful products and services and networks that people can do things with. Whereas Bitcoin is sort of like a dumb rock, sort of like gold. It just sits there, and it's easy to dismiss it as being slow and heavy and worthless. But in reality, it's a store of value. So I think it's the unsexy pick. You just buy it and it sits there. People say it has no use case, but the use is it stores your value. So yeah, it's not going to do anything on a minute-to-minute basis. It's not going to travel around the world doing smart contracts and blowing all kinds of bells and whistles. So all these other cryptos, on the other hand, some of them might have awesome use cases. They might do fantastic things, but they might crash and burn. And all the products built around them, whether they be ETFs or ICOs or NFTs or you name it, you could make money. You could make a profit, a fiat profit, playing these games. But I would encourage people to stay very far away from all of them. It's worse than gambling. Like it's way worse than gambling. You could get rich, but you're probably going to go broke.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. So yeah, like Bitcoin, at least unlike gold, you don't have to bury it in the ground, right?
Yeah, exactly. You can put it in a cold storage device. It looks like a USB drive, fits in the palm of your hand, and you could put that wherever you want, in your sock drawer or in a desk drawer, wherever. It doesn't have to be in the ground. It's very, very easy to keep track of these things and put it somewhere convenient.
All right. So any more advice for those listening or insights where you should be buying it, what kind of gold you should be getting? What's your feelings now?
Yeah, well, with any of these investments, whether it's gold, silver, or Bitcoin, I would strongly encourage people to take physical delivery, quote unquote. I know with Bitcoin, obviously it's digital, so it doesn't really make sense to take physical delivery. But the analogy in the Bitcoin space is to hold your own private keys. So wherever you get your gold, silver, or your Bitcoin, make sure you have it in your possession. So if you can hold it in your hand, if you can touch it, then you've got it, right? And nobody else owes you something after you have it in your hands. And so with Bitcoin, take your private keys. With gold and silver, take physical delivery, keep it somewhere safe. And then after that, once you have your base position established, then you can start maybe doing ETFs or other sort of digital or paper promises.
All right. I like it. All right. So goldsilver.com. How else do we find you on the web here?
Oh, you can follow me on Twitter or X at Alan Hibbard. Otherwise, goldsilver.com and the Gold Silver YouTube channel.
Great. And the link's in the show notes to this interview on financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Just ask when you go there, please sign up for our free newsletter like close to 75,000 other FSN members have. Alan, we will talk to you again soon. Thanks for stopping by.
Hey, thanks so much, Kerry.
Thanks for listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, your solution to today's trying times. For the latest, go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.